All right, 7 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. We'll get a chance to look at the minutes from January.
I move to approve.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Site plan for land equipment on Commerce Drive. Who is representing? Okay. Eric, do you want to go through the highlights?
Sure. So I was just trying to remember as the committee was coming up in here, the plan commission looked at this some time ago, maybe December or November, I don't remember exactly. But at that time, we still had several unresolved issues of additional submittal documents and things to satisfy the code. I actually wasn't present at that meeting, but it was, the schedule was postponed at that time. Been working with the applicant and applicant's engineer representative since then to get in additional information and review it. We've got a list here of kind of some highlight pieces that we kind of look at to make sure that they are compliant and things that we've seen, like lighting, landscaping, parking, all that kind of stuff. The updated plan, and I won't go through every item we can, and certainly there's certain things that we probably can, but generally the current submittal meets town code, different sections, respects to lighting, landscaping, parking. Did have some adjustments in grading, and I noted earlier review documents as well, and I'm still doing this one too. The driveway is kind of steep coming in as we're trying to get down to the loading dock area, and we suggested maybe look at alternative designs. That wasn't something that they are interested in looking at and have, but it's not anything that's not meeting the town's code. Stormwater management they have in the front, they do, it's service, sales and rental of small equipment, skid loaders, that kind of stuff. They are going to have some exterior displays, which can't be located within the setbacks. They're proposing those will still be located in a small space on the east highway side, and then a little triangle on the Commerce Drive side. Or not east, excuse me, the south side of the highway side.
I don't see anything for building elevations.
That was an early submittal. I don't know if they got printed out then for this. No, there were.
What the building was on.
So, and maybe Representative Lane can speak to it too, but I think it was metal siding with the stone half wall. Is that what it is?
Correct, yeah, it's for the wainscoting, the bottom 4 feet is stone, metal after that. The front side is dressed up quite a bit more. Traditional steel on the other 3 sides. Windows on the 2 main, really not much on the back facing the highways. That's more kind of shop storage. The front is as eye-appealing as any of our other locations. We try to dress them up in the front as make them as presentable and good looking as possible.
I just, I
Yeah.
don't see the thing, and we always are concerned about what the building is.
Yeah, so it may have been,
It has been
November.
submitted previously.
yeah, whenever we looked at before, but different updates didn't get bring back out.
Deems to approve prior submittal of the meeting. I don't remember. I thought I
No one was here from Lang, so we took no action and no discussion.
We're based out of Marshfield, Wisconsin, so it's a little bit of a challenge to get here. We understand now that it's more of a priority, obviously, we want to continue going forward, so, we're happy to make the drive. We have 5 locations in the state of Wisconsin, throughout the central and western part. So we're happy to do whatever we need to do to be compliant, and make it work. We just want to build it, and, we're happy to, if there's discussion that needs to happen for our growth, it's not like we're set in stone. And, obviously, we're limited by our budget. This is probably our biggest limiting factor, but beyond that, we're open to discussion, open to hearing inputs if you want to see certain things, certain ways.
What kind of stuff are you gonna store outside or where?
Predominantly very little outside. Our goal, as our business has grown, is to actually have more and more inside. Outside, a handful of trailers, primarily like our delivery trailer, and our delivery truck are 2 primary pieces that will be outside. We've always had a goal to have at least 1 tractor outside to kind of like display what it is trying to represent. Beyond that, it's a big importance to our clientele is that the machinery and power equipment predominantly across many markets is stored outside, and it's usually quite ugly. They have hundreds of things in every direction, and it looks messy. Over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of work to expand our building sizes, which again costs more money for us, but the product was cleaner inside. I feel like it's cleaner for our neighbors. It's the biggest thing that we found out a couple years ago is we built a new building in 2020 in Marshfield. And when we did that, we built it bigger than we expected. But what we learned from that is that our clientele was able to shop our products all year long, having it inside, and that was a huge boost in revenue for us. So we were able to hire more employees, have more staff. It was a benefit for all parties involved. It looked cleaner on the outside. Our clients weren't buying something that was -20 outside and didn't start and had to jump it, all that stuff. I mean, it was just a better component. So our goal here is to have truly as much of it as we possibly can inside as possible, and that's always our goal. Now that being said, if something has to be outside, we're happy to try to tuck it away on the backside or out of the ice. We still want to display stuff if possible, to let people know that we're there and we do have a retail type setup. But at the same time, things that are in ISO, I have no desire to have me out front. I want it to be within our building as much as possible.
Sure. How about signage?
So there will be LED signage on the building itself, and then we're hoping to do a standalone sign someday in the future with the approval and everything. Again, that comes back to the lighting plan, comes back to the sign approval. It's somewhere initially on the building is our biggest concern, and then we can always add a secondary pole sign if we move on the road.
Yeah, so right now, in the application, there was a wall mounted sign.
On the front and the rear, on the front for sure of the building.
You're on 94. I'm guessing you want to advertise on 94 as well. I just don't see it.
To the best of our abilities. In our marketplace, we're learning more and more as being done on the internet these days. More and more transactions take over the internet. We love the foot traffic, we encourage foot traffic, but just the reality of it is that every year less and less people retail shop in person, and more people buy on the internet. So it's a balance.
I mean, it says there's a proposed sign, 13 by 4, wall mounted with internal lighting. That's fine. I just think this site plan is incomplete at this point, but if you've already seen something more than this,
Yeah, so, I don't have that sign piece.
I could possibly pull it up and share it as well. Correct, facing commerce. At this point, our goal is to try to get our foot in the door. I mean, like I say, we're happy to apply for another sign permit if that's the case. The reality is that there's quite a few trees on the backside of that blocking. So there is visibility to 94, but that was not like our main gun-ho decision to try to draw a large amount of traffic. Predominantly, honestly, it's a great location in our opinion for ease of access. That was a huge thing that we looked at. We love the fact that it's right on 94, and sure, yes, we would love additional revenue driven from 94, but that was not the ultimate game plan. The ultimate game plan was ease of access. It's in what we consider a commercial/industrial district, so it met the kind of protocol that we were looking for when we were looking for a piece of land. The lot was within the size requirements that we were seeking for, and then again, at the end of the day, the money is really the driving factor. We have a budget. We're a small business. We don't have tons of cash flow just everywhere, so it's important to stay within those parameters. And so those were kind of the ultimate decisions of why that piece of land worked for us.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
October of last year was on the agenda for us.
But we didn't vote on it.
We didn't consider it, yeah.
So, does anybody remember the site plan and all that? Was there any questions?
We really didn't look at it. Well, yeah, there were a couple of questions came up, but there was nobody here to answer.
Correct, and we were working with the firm, and still are working with a building firm that helped us build it, but it's been brought to our attention over the last couple months, transparency-wise, that they were not maybe holding up to their end of the requirements.
Greenland? You talking about Greenland?
Well, just as far as, we're correct, yes, but also just named, Don Nicolai is the true contractor who we, originally started with. And I do everything I can to not, this is not Don Nicolai. It was on our understanding that they were taking care of some of the meetings and the agendas. And then after some time and some period, it was brought to our attention that that was not taking place. Miscommunication, whatever it is, it's our fault at the end of the day. We now understand that, making the agendas, making the meetings, obviously why we're here tonight and making the effort to try to share who we are, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to get accomplished. So.
Eric, you're happy with everything? Everything looks like it's following your concern as far as this site plan goes? Looks like it's all ours. Our thing, but just like to have more stuff.
And we're happy to share it. If you need something else, we're happy to share it with everyone.
Just make sure the town board has everything by their meeting, the first Tuesday of March.
First Tuesday of March.
I think it is in my book already.
Is it?
I read it today.
Minutes for that or December. Covering this for December agenda. Wasn't this one?
Yeah, so all right. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve it.
There's something? Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So it will be on the board agenda next Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And we're happy to, again, come back and be a part of that. Maybe you and I can email, if there's any additional documents, I know it's all been drawn, I've seen it all myself. Happy to get you physical copies like, we were required to previously, happy to get you electronic copies. Whatever, when we're working with a firm and another company, sometimes there's a little lack of communication in there, what exactly is truly needed. I would be happy to get point of contact to, hey, we're missing this, or I need a couple more copies of this, no problem. Whatever is needed, happy to give.
What's your name?
My name's Kellen.
Kellen? Okay. Yeah, and I've been copying Nate
Nate and Brad, yeah.
and Brad.
Yep. So yeah, I sit right underneath Nate as the director of sales for Lane Equipment, so.
Okay.
But happy to help in any manner I can. Nate's a very busy individual. He's got a lot of irons in the fire, so I play a role where I try to lend a hand in every direction I possibly can. So,
Okay.
Okay. Next item, I will turn over to our attorney, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. Yes. I am here to, just answer questions of board members as to these new rules. It sounded like there was some concern, and we want to have a discussion about those. That's why I'm here. It looks to me like some of my concerns about social media were shared with the board members. And basically, social media is a great tool, but social media can cause problems as well. And it causes problems when inaccurate information gets spread throughout and rumors. And I think the idea of some of these rules is to try to prohibit that. And I think it's also important to avoid the appearance that, that people's opinions on things are prejudged before it comes to the board. For instance, if you're going to have a public hearing on something, and board members put out on social media that there's a public hearing, but by the way, I'm totally opposed to this. Well, I guess it sort of defeats the purpose of the public hearing, in my view. And it also discourages people to even show up to the public hearing because they think that all the minds are made up. And that's not the purpose of the public hearing and communication. And just on another aside, if I have a client that doesn't like the result and I want to challenge it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an open records request and look at all the social media posts and the text and see if there were board members that were prejudged before they sat down at the table here and heard the public hearing and heard the applicant present. If the decision's already made, their due process rights have been impacted. And I see Attorney Fowler in the audience. Am I correct? If you go in front of the judge and the judge posts on social media, boy, I don't like this defendant. That's an issue. You guys aren't judges, but you're public officials. You have an obligation to be fair and open-minded when an applicant brings a project before you.
So what can we say on social media?
Well, I don't have a problem. If you want to post, there's a public hearing on such and such a matter on this night, please come. The town board is planning, or talking about agenda items. The town board is going to discuss the following. We encourage people to come, and that's good. People should come. I mean, I go to a lot of meetings, and lots of time the room's empty. Most of the time when the public, when you're going to pass the budget, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's no one sitting out there. You talk about a sidewalk, you talk about something else, and the room gets packed. But encouraging involvement is good, and social media does that. But spreading, disinformation and jumping to conclusions is where the problem comes in. And the problem also comes in with just open meeting laws and avoiding blocking forums. And it's very easy for board members to sort of jump on a post and respond, and then another one jumping on and respond. And as soon as that turns in any sort of back and forth and discussion, you have a potential open meeting violation.
And what are the repercussions of doing that? What happens to, is it against each member, or is it against the town itself?
Well, it's against the members, and it just violates the process. Again, it comes back to that due process. That decision shouldn't be made on social media. It should be made in the city here, letting people come forward and talk. The applicants, the people in the public, for the public hearing. That's where those discussions should take place, in my opinion. So I've said my little piece there.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it.
So the member is liable for whatever their actions are outside of the town of Hudson.
If they're breaking the open meeting laws, if they're doing that, yeah, they're responsible for it.
But the whole committee as a whole isn't going to get reprimanded, so.
No, but it goes back to if someone wants to challenge something,
Right?
then that's a problem.
So if someone does challenge something, then what happens? They request these records, they look and see if there's been discussion or an opinion, but can't individual board members have an opinion?
They can have an opinion.
Can they state their opinion on social media?
Well, I don't think they should be stating that opinion before the public.
I'm asking, and I want
Well,
to,
right, but I mean, we're supposed to be impartial, right? We're not the board, we're not the public hearing. We're a group of individuals that people come to and they ask us if they have the right, based on our ordinances and our rules, to go to the next step.
And we've got a comp plan.
And we've got a comp plan. And I always thought that our job is to say, yes, you do, or no, you don't. And it's not based on opinion. It's not based on what I want on that corner. It's not based on whether or not I think it's going to increase the traffic count on the street that I live on in the township.
but we're to change an ordinance.
It's based, look, correct.
That's-
But if they have all their ducks in a row and they have the right to be heard at the next level, that's what I've always thought our job is. I get texts and emails. I mean, obviously, I've sold real estate in this town for 20 years. Everybody, a lot of people know my family. They know how to get a hold of me. I mean, I get calls and I get emails and I get text messages from people that, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know, we don't need, and I always tell them that's not my job. My job is to make sure that they have all the ducks in the row to go ahead and ask the town, ask the people that actually make the decisions, whether or not they can. And then the public meeting.
Have you had violations?
But it's not my job to sit here in judgment based on my opinion.
Have you had violations? Is that why this is brought up today?
Maybe.
I don't know that for sure.
They haven't been challenged yet.
But there's been a few, because I've been notified by some people that made me aware of
But as you can see, we have cameras now,
something that's going on.
so I just want all of us to understand what the rules are and abide by them. Without infringing on anybody's First Amendment rights.
I don't think
We're not
anybody wants
trying to do that. We just want to make sure that we're not violating any open meeting records and we're prejudging anything before we get here.
And just so you know, I mean, I represent a lot of municipalities, and having rules for decorum for meetings and things is not uncommon. Having rules about who can contact the town attorney, the village attorney. Typically, all the municipalities have an understanding, if not a written rule in place, as to how that process goes. And some of them, it's just purely for financial reasons. They don't want a lot of people calling and emailing me because it goes on the bill. You know, one community, it takes 2 board members to agree for someone to contact. And usually, that's fairly common. The same with, you know, there's a rule here about public comment. Almost all the municipalities either written, unofficial, or have a procedure for public comment, just to keep it organized. Because public comment is not public debate. And it has to be done in a manner that allows people on one side to feel comfortable, and people on the other side to feel comfortable that there's a process and they can come in and speak and not be intimidated.
Brian has told us before in prior discussions that he would prefer we don't contact Eric, for example, our engineer directly. But it's okay for Brian to do so as the chair. I have difficulty understanding the difference between the chair being able to do that and, say, myself being able to do that.
Because that's a policy that this group would have.
What is our policy on contact?
Well, it's like our attorney. Anytime somebody contacts him, there's a bill.
Yep.
And so the town board doesn't want anybody and everybody contacting the attorney or the engineer to spend money on the towns that just, if there's a question, we'll run it through the process and see if it warrants the call or email to the attorney or the chair.
And
So the
many
process is none of us should contact him.
Not directly, no.
Yeah, that's what I
And
figured.
many times what I'll see is there'll be a contact person, whether it be the clerk, whether it be the chair. And if those questions are filtered to that person, and they send out the question to me, and I can respond, and then the clerk can respond back, and it's not a discussion between board members at that point. It's just the clerk disseminating information in a sort of a one-way street. And you always see when those emails come out, it says, do not reply all to this email.
It's in paper or written form so that it's answered that way, it can just be handed out instead of you talking to everybody.
Yeah, it's just, sometimes it's more efficient than getting 3-4 calls. And it also helps me because then I can have a consistent response. Sometimes, multiple people call, they ask a question a little bit different, I respond a little bit different, and that can cause confusion. We don't want that.
So
I want to be efficient.
So I asked that question so it's clear in the meeting here, in case you know.
Was that another rule we need to put in writing?
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, you certainly can. I don't know, maybe there was one of those rules that you about that. But it's good for everybody to know the process.
I would agree.
It is a good process, and it probably should be written down because of both the zoning member changes, to a different person, they can go and find that information.
Any thoughts, Tim?
I agree. And that brings to light, it was probably 15 years ago, the town board decided the only people that should contact the attorney is the town chair and the clerk, for the same reasons that he mentioned. Otherwise, the bill goes up. If we had board members that were contacting the attorney and running the bill up, spending hours with the attorney on something that they wanted to do, not what the board necessarily wanted to do.
So do we need to make a motion to add that or not?
No,
No.
we'll take care of it.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the rules for the government of the town board, commission, and committees? And we have our attorney here. If there's any questions, ask him. Since he's in the
Pretty consistent with other municipalities that you represent, these rules?
Yeah, there is. Many places don't have all these written out like this, but I think it's consistent. It's what I've seen in other places. It's set up to, and these go into a lot more policy than just social media. So there's a lot of process that the staff is going to undertake and the board and the planning commission.
Earlier, you said it was a good idea for us to post what's coming up on the agenda, just not his opinion. But on Rule 29, it says, no town board members, plan commission members, or committee members shall use social media sites to post or discuss town business.
And I guess, I read that as not so much saying we can't inform people that there's a meeting.
Well, I want this clear. That's why I asked the question.
It's the discussion of town business. It's one step past the public notice of the hearing.
Because I agree with you, I don't mind people saying, there's a meeting tomorrow night, this is what they're gonna discuss, please come. And then stop.
Exactly.
Well, I think a lot of it's common sense, right?
Well,
You're probably not going to get in trouble with anybody posting the fact that there's a meeting on March 1st.
it's when you go past it and go, I'm against this, come and vote with me. I think is where we really have to draw the line there.
I think that's where
But I think the rational person's going to understand that line is going to cross.
And again, I go back to the public hearings. Asking if it's a public hearing, you don't have to say it already decided before the public hearing. It's just, the process doesn't work. It should work.
Any more questions, anybody? I want this to be clear for everybody. Oh,
I got one. Paul, in one of our discussions, you said that board members and commission members, at the point that they got put on that board or commission, had given up in some ways their right to citizenship, where they have a right to do whatever they like as a citizen. They're now a representative of the community. And therefore, what they're doing on social media is determined by their representation as a member of the commission or the board, not as a private citizen. Is that still true?
Well, and that's where some of the confusion comes in. I mean, are the posts from a board member? Are the posts the opinion of the town? Or and how do you separate that individual opinion? And then go here and put my town board member hat on and not say that that's my opinion that's already been expressed up there. And, there's a responsibility to sit on these boards. People need to take that seriously. We will have control. I mean, this gentleman here wants to build this building. He's got a lot at stake. He wants a fair shake from everybody up there. That's not controversial. Something else might be. But I just think that decision needs to be made. And I think the idea is that those decisions should be made here in front of the public, at public meetings, after public hearings and due process, and not seem like decisions are being made in the back room or through social media posts.
are there any disclaimers that we can make that I hear quite often, especially politicians or news media? These are not the opinions of the network, or these are not the opinions of the town. These are my personal opinions. Can I still give my personal opinion, even though I'm on board?
Well, everybody's going to have a personal opinion. And I just think some of it is timing. When we go back to example, there's a public hearing coming up in 3 days. Please come. Oh, by the way, I'm totally opposed to this. What's the purpose of having a public hearing? That's for board members to gain information, to make that decision, not based on rumor, based on social media. You've all read the social media posts. They're just wrong. They're just not true. And it seems like people believe it. If it's on the internet, it's got to be true.
What about
But really, what you're talking about is pre-meeting. If you post your opinion after the meeting, that's okay because your meeting was in open discussion.
Yeah, if if you want to post something on after the meeting saying, I voted this way, and many times you'll explain that vote in the meeting. But if you want to clarify that, post voting, I don't have an issue with that. But if you're doing it pre-meeting, I think that takes away people's rights to a fair shake.
I would agree.
Before time.
Best practice is to stay off of social media with your opinions on the stuff that you're working on anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
As far as our meetings go, like the plan commission, what if random people in the audience had a question? Are they allowed to ask it, or is it up to me to call on them, or?
Yeah, that's up to you. You know, there's a time and a place for a public hearing. That's when official public input comes in. You know, typically, if the applicant's here, you're going to want the applicant to
Right.
present.
And I'll ask questions of the applicant.
You know,
But sometimes a neighbor has a concern and a question.
for general public, unless you allow that.
I'd rather not, but do I have to?
No, you don't have to. That's policy. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard for a town when you know the neighbors and they're raising their hand and they say, I got a question on this. And that's sort of your call, because once you start down that road,
We can lose control of the
you can
meeting.
lose control of the meeting and it becomes a free-for-all kind of a thing. And that's not what the meeting should be. You need to be able to control that. So the short answer is no, audience members don't have the right to participate unless it's a public hearing.
That's what we understand.
As planning, we really don't have much for open discussion anyway. Does this, like Adam said, does this fit the parameters of what we're supposed to approve in that location? And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it does. And it gets sent to the town board to take on all of that aspect in reality. I would think, am I right?
Well, I think you have some discretion, you know, if you know the property, and because everybody does it, so, you know, and you think, well, when we're coming around that curve, maybe we should move this driveway a little bit here. Both spots may meet code, but it may have some common sense to tweak things. You know, they gotta have so many trees per the code. Well, where should you put those? There's some discretion in there. It's to make a good site plan, make a good final product that works both for the applicant and for the town and the residents. So you do have,
We do have some discretion.
you do have some discretion, and your opinions are valid. And that's why you're here. That's why you were chosen to be on here.
Paul, are you familiar with our website where we have meeting agendas posted, meeting minutes,
Yep.
additional materials?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on, for example, the blueprints, the engineer's letter? These are additional materials for this meeting. What are your thoughts on having that posted with the minutes?
I guess, well, agenda packets for board members is fairly common to be posted. I don't know that I'm not a techie about posting all these plans on there.
These are proprietary, right?
No, once
No.
they hit this is
Then they're
public.
not, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean,
The
as far as
exam-
going on the website.
The example,
It's public, once it gets to here.
Yeah, as soon as you file that application, it's public.
the example I'm referring to is the city of Hudson. You know everything
Yep.
before the meeting.
Yep. Some of them are very good at posting everything. And other towns are, you know, the smaller towns don't do it as much. But the cities don't. It's all
They
there.
have IT people that.
They have staff.
Yeah, and they can, and that's where I go back to the IT. Is it feasible? And
I'll volunteer to do it.
you know, in a perfect world, yeah, those packets, unless it's a closed session item, that stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, it should be out there, then people know what it's all about. And it may dissuade some of the inaccuracies that are floating around.
You have something? Anything else, Tim, that you want to discuss?
The only thing I might say, and you guys don't normally end up with it, and I don't think I've seen it for quite a few years, because most of the time you guys vote unanimously. If you're on a commission or a town board, and the vote goes down 6-1, you should not leave this meeting as the one with the one that voted against it, bad-mouthing that opinion, because once you as a board member made that decision, the decision coming out of the commission was it passed. You need to accept that motion and not go out and badmouth it after you leave the meeting. Just a thought.
You're shaking your head no.
Are you asking me a question?
No.
Why are you shaking your head no?
Well, you guys are a little different as planning commission, you're appointed. Certainly the board members here are elected, and elected officials, in my book, definitely have a right to share their opinions, because that's why we elected them. That's the whole point of democracy, is hearing what the opinions are. And I've never, ever heard a board say to its fellow elected members, just because you disagree, you can't talk to them, you have to accept it. That never happens. Look at Congress. Look at any board. And so my whole problem with the rules, I get what Mr. Mayor is saying about some timing may be good issues, but when you make a blanket rule that says you can't have an opinion just because you're on a board or just because you're elected, that violates the prior restraint clause of the Constitution. You can't stop speech before it happens unless you have compelling justification. Mr. Mayor knows this. Like, there's cases, New Jersey versus Gary. You don't give up your rights just because you're on a board. So that's all I have to say.
You sound like a lawyer.
He is.
And you took it out of context. You said it prior to the meeting, and I agree with you 1,000% prior to the meeting. But once you, as a board, made a decision, you shouldn't be going out bad-mouthing because you're bad-mouthing the board you're on or the commission you're on when you do that.
There's a difference between bad mouthing and expressing an opinion. I mean, if you say, I think this is not in the community's best interest, how is that wrong, sharing your ideas so that other community members can engage? I don't see a problem with that.
It's before the meeting takes place that
Correct.
we don't want to have.
Not after.
I've already said, I get that, you want to be judged.
That's where I'm coming from. It's having board members give their opinion on one side or the other before the meeting. That can't happen with the open meeting laws.
And I'm sorry, I don't know you. Who are you?
My name's Robert Fowler.
Okay.
I live here in Hudson Township.
Gotcha. I'm Tony.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
What Brian's saying makes sense. It's prior to it, then what's your opinion is out there. I mean, once you made the opinion of the meeting, well,
But no, if it's between meetings and there's another meeting,
then that's wrong too.
Well, yeah, I can see
Okay.
if I was an applicant, I wouldn't want the law wheels, render an opinion well before the public meeting. I can see I feel like I wasn't getting a fair shake.
The public meeting should be held at the public meeting, not based
So
on.
I can totally understand that. After the meeting, fine.
I don't think we should take any advice from Congress.
all right, any other questions relevant to our discussion tonight? Do you have anything, Eric? Anything you want?
No, I'll do your job.
We don't get them very often, so I want everything.
He's understopped the bill.
Was it? Well, you got the full stage tonight.
We try.
Is there anything else you want to add? Anybody have any more questions? Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good discussion.
I think that concludes our business unless there's anything else. Any other proper business we have? I don't have anything. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll make a motion.
There we go. Vicky seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.